did the interview that we have recorded a few days ago with Professor Jorge Arbache, one of the famous economists in Brazil, and he is an ex-minister of the Ministry of State Plans of Brazil and chief economist. And another participant is Mr. Amilton Machado, the head of the National Association of the Alumni and the oil and gas division of the Chamber of Brazil. And we will talk whether the sustainable development became a new driver of the development of the economies of BRICS and why the global South countries invest into green technologies and how do American US banks
Dear friends, greetings from Belém, from the sidelines of COP30 conference here. And this is the new chapter of Sustainacast in partnership with the Ecumene Business Club. And today we welcome our honored guests, Professor Jorge Harbash, right? Sorry, and Amilton Machado. So, Professor is one of the leading economists in Brazil with heavy focus on now heavy focus on sustainability issues and the broad context of sustainability in the economy of global south and growingly like the global economy and global south as well. Hamilton Machado is the president of ANDP, the Association of Alumni of Oil and Gas Industry in Brazil. And I'm your friend from guest from Bank. So welcome, dear guests, and welcome, dear speakers. So I would like to probably ask several questions, and we'll start, Professor, from you. I know that your academic studies span across economic issues broadly, macroeconomic issues, and sustainability issues as part of them. So, my concern about sustainability was always that people in the business they quite often see that sustainability is a burden on the business, while the idea of COP, the idea of global like political bodies which we are trying to push into the forward is to make it an engine, not the burden, but an engine. So, do you feel that we're at the point when sustainability becomes actually an engine rather than a burden? And if not, how far are we from that point, and what should be done to achieve it?
No, thank you very much for having me on this conversation. I think that this is a very important question that is behind the conversations among many people, not only in Brazil but in many other places, people from the business community. I think that we have to take into account at least two things. One is that we are moving from one point, from point A to point B. And in between, it requires adaptation, many changes. We have to consider that new business models have to be adopted, new technologies, and some other things. Uh, and that's something that the business community has to understand that you will not shift from A to B without this transition. And the second point has to do with technology. In many areas, the new technologies, sustainable technologies, are already more attractive than the conventional technologies. And the sun story, the production of energy from sun, and in many cases from wind as well, are just a few examples. Take the case of the EV cars. Uh, they are becoming more attractive, more interesting, and that means that, of course, there are still risks regarding these new technologies and also these new business models. But as I mentioned, in many cases, they are already more attractive. So, having said all those two things, my sense is that those business leaders that decide to engage down the road, they may miss the boat. So you may not get engaged necessarily because you want to protect nature, the environment, and climate change. but because you want to survive in the middle to long term. And if you miss that, you may be done. So, example, take the case of the EV cars. Some big companies in the US and in Europe decided to postpone getting engaged. And maybe this is too late now. There are many people within the industry, the auto industry, saying that many companies may struggle to survive. Why? Because they engaged down the road. They took decisions perhaps too late. So not only countries, but also corporations have to take part uh, on that conversation, not only because this is a question, a matter of long-term, medium to long-term presence in the market, but because of the fact that there are some other countries that are investing heavily on those sectors, as is the case of China.
Mm-hmm.
So my sense is that yes, if you are really concerned about the future, you have to consider climate change as a tool for you to get engaged in those new technologies and in those new markets.
And you mentioned China, and within those 3 days already of the conference, I've been around the platform. Around the blue zone, and Chinese pavilion is always one of the most crowded,
Exactly.
compared only to the pavilion of Brazil, which is the host country. So Chinese companies always deliver the message that we stick close to our, not only companies but also the government stick close to our climate targets, no matter what others are saying. Even if someone wants to deviate from the climate policies, we are still there. So, do you think that this is a strong sign of China and BRICS, maybe broadly, becoming the new engine of climate economy? And if yes, what part of the own economy, climate economy, becomes? So, is it a new way of doing ordinary stuff, or is is it something which still has to be heavily subsidized to get benefits somewhere in the future? So, what's your view on that? And maybe adding to like solar um, plants, which you mentioned earlier, among some people, there is like a belief that the efficiency is because of the subsidies. So everyone knows that tenfold the price, the cost went fell tenfold, but they say, well, if not subsidized, it wouldn't work. So probably these two questions. What's your view on them?
No, look, climate change is changing everything,
Exactly.
and BRIC countries are have perhaps the most attractive opportunity for them to have a bigger chunk in the global economy through climate change. Of course, China is leading in many areas. There is no need to talk about the case of China. Uh, but if you look at what India is doing, they are very much investing in many different areas, exploring different areas. As an example, they are very much interested in biofuels.
Biofuels,
In,
exactly.
they are working with Brazil on that in order to learn, in order to understand how it works, how to do things right. If you look at the case of Brazil itself, Brazil, as we all know, is home of the biggest freshwater reservoir in the world. It has already a very clean energy matrix, among many other things. And Russia has its own strengths as well. South Africa, some other strengths. My point is, uh, uh, each of those countries have to identify where they can work and have a nice participation in this new economy that is already unfolding. It's already unfolding, and many more is to come. And I think that there is a room for maneuver between and among the BRIC countries to find ways to work together in some specific areas, of course. And coming back to biofuels, this is a very attractive area for those countries to work together. For example, Brazil and China are already exploring many things, and Brazil and India are already exploring many things. And and there is no way back. The
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no way back, and some countries are postponing their engagements, and that will cost them a lot. So I think that BRIC countries, because of many reasons, they are more flexible. They can take decisions in a more pragmatic
Way.
manner way, and that gives them a room for maneuver or a new space for them to explore how to participate in the coming economy.
In the way of comparative advantage, I understood that Brazil is okay in terms of biofuels, but even more in biodiversity.
Yeah.
Biodiversity for the pharmaceutical areas, industry. I believe that is the way that we are able to improve a lot. But we need to understand our capability in this area. And I think that if we work together in the BRICS, we are able to have a condition to improve a lot this advantage for all the countries in a multilateral way. Because China has a very strong in terms of technologies, but in pharmaceutical technology also. And I think that Brazil earns a lot if work together with them in this area. And I think that biodiversity is the next pathway for the BRICS.
Yeah.
And maybe a question related to that one thesis, which Hamilton mentioned. So there is a concept of ecosystem services,
Exactly.
and the ecosystem services have their costs. So you can maybe for those who are watching us, simple explanation that you can either build a refinery or keep the land for
Uh-huh.
recreation purposes, and the comparative cost of the cost of ecosystem services, like not only recreation but also food production, things like that. So, Professor, as an economist, do you think that the concept of ecosystem services is uh, mature, or is it still an early stage and we don't have like enough academic studies to have any quantifying measure for it?
Well, that's a good question. I fully agree with Milton that natural capital is the next frontier from many different perspectives. Ecosystemic services will perhaps become a highly valuable asset in the coming years and perhaps decades because of many reasons. One of them is its influence on water. On water. A second thing is pollination. A third one has to do with climate equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some others. So, and all those things cannot be fabricated in laboratories or in fabrics or wherever. This has to do with geography. You either have the conditions to provide those types of services or not. This is geography.
Exactly.
Uh, and we already know how to measure. We already know what is more and less valuable here there, but what is not in place at this point in time is the openness of, especially of the US and Europe, to accept that those services have to be remunerated, as is the case of the Amazon forest.
Exactly.
Uh, uh,
Absolutely.
it's not
I
on the
agree.
it's not on the table right now. Everybody expects Brazil to protect the forest, as is the case of the forest in Indonesia, Congo, and some other place. But nobody is open to pay for that. However, big banks and funds, especially in the US, are already working in order to identify what are the most critical natural capital uh, that needed to be preserved right now in order to make money down the road and to 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 uh, to uh, to use it, or to convert it in an asset class. And what are they doing? They are purchasing huge plots of lands, but plots of lands that have a say or an influence in water reserves, in climate change, in pollination, in all these types of things. So they're already purchasing those lands. What they are doing right now as well is they are developing new methodologies for measuring and for identifying that A causes B, that A is causing B, so that they will help develop legislation to to enforce that B should pay A for that natural services. That's what will happen in the coming years and decades. And so, in other words, we're talking about a huge market, a huge, immense market that will, as I mentioned, have an immense influence in the global arena. So yes, there is a lot more to do. It's not already developed or well developed because of all those reasons, but it will come sooner or later.
Well, excellent point. And I think that the big issue is about how to measure this positive externality when you think in this way. Because nowadays, the economy uh, don't account the positive externality when you use the natural assets. In fact, another thing that they don't measure in the right way is the impact in the communities that live there and preserve this kind of natural assets. This is the point that we need to start to measure for, in the second step, have conditions to pay these agents that implement the support for the lands and preserve the environment. I think that this is the point that is we missing.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. There are some developments already in terms of new methodologies for identifying and for measuring that A causes B.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there, and there are some developers here in Brazil as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and for example, they have already measured. Just to get you an example, the impact of deforestation on rain regime, what is known as rain corridors, and how that the reduction of rains is affecting hydropower reservoirs. They have already mentioned that.
In the the materiality of the climate, the impact of the climate inside this business of energy power and so on. We need to do this.
and they are also measuring how deforestation through rains is affecting the agriculture sector. They're measuring how much money, how is that
The
affecting
loss that we have
productivity.
in this.
So those things are evolving. They're evolving. What is not there already, of course, we need to develop a lot more. We need a global taxonomy on that, and we need to convert those things in asset class. But what is not already there is uh, the openness to accept that this is an asset class and that you have to pay for this natural service. But it will come sooner or later. I'm pretty sure.
And Professor, when you mentioned the American banks which develop those vehicles and methodologies which will build going forward tremendous markets, you meant U.S. banks probably, right?
And
So,
funds.
so U.S. banks are still in the game, aren't they? Because their perception is that when they started to leave G funds, that the American financial sector will step away from the policies, from climate policies for some time. So this is not the case. So they still in the game. Are they?
Well, one thing is what big American corporations say, and the other is what they are really doing.
Exactly.
Many of them know that if as I mentioned in the very beginning, if you want to remain on business, you have to be part of the climate change conversation and the technology development, innovation, and all those things. Of course, there are some companies that are disengaging, but there are many others that are investing heavily, including many funds, including philanthropies, American philanthropy institutions, and many others, simply because they know that this means money.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Beyond protecting the trees, they are protecting their
Their pocket.
their
They
pockets.
protect their pockets.
That's it.
Not the trees.
And getting back to your earlier statement on Amazon preservation and the efforts which someone has to pay for, and I would like to ask the question, Hamilton here. So it's like an obvious, it seems that an obvious way to do it is through carbon markets. And I know that you developed the concept of blue carbon and broadly using the indigenous people's knowledge to save not just the forest but also the cities using this policies. Do you think that carbon markets, and I will ask the same question to you, Professor, do you think that the carbon markets is a viable vehicle to pay for it, and that we will see demand, and that the credits which you probably will have from the projects which you plan will find the way to the market, and someone will pay for it, and this will eventually build better future for Amazon.
Well, in my point of view, we have an opportunity to do something that we never do. One is the community with our law that are the generators of carbon credits. But the big issue is how they do this. Why? Because they don't have money to pay for generate the credit. Once we are conditioned to put uh, today generate and finance the generation of this credit, and when you have credits, they use this like a guarantee. Probably you are able to insert this community in the national uh, finance system, because there, if you use like example the quilombolas, that is a generator of credits in our law, but they are outside the national financial system. And well, once that they are able to generate these carbon credits, they are able to use this as a guarantee for the investment, the green investment that the enterprise uh, borrow and use these credits as a guarantee. You understand me?
Yeah,
I think that is a way to insert these communities that outside to inside our financial system.
yeah.
And, okay, I just wanted to.
No, I fully agree with Milton. I think that there are two things that will be there, yes or yes. One is the carbon credit, and why? Because it makes sense, and why also because especially developed economies need offset options.
Mhm.
So it will be there, just a matter of adjustments, institutional frameworks, things related to greenwashing. There are
Exactly.
many issues that have to be fixed, and they will be fixed because there is a lot of money involved. This is number one. Number two, we need another thing that is carbon accounting. So we have to be in a position to identify, for example, how much emission means by producing this thing. For example, in Australia, in Mozambique, in South Africa, in the US, or in Brazil. So based on that carbon accounting, and for that we have to use one single framework. If you are in a position to identify the emissions related to the production of whatever, that can be soya, that can be oil, that can be a car, that can
Okay.
be anything, that will help us identify the best way to go in terms of managing decarbonization at the global level, in terms of how to reduce the cost of decarbonization and how to speed up the process. So we need both things, carbon accounting and carbon markets. They work together in different ways, but they combine, uh, create a nicer environment for doing business and for protecting the environment.
Professor, you mentioned that the drivers for the carbon market would definitely be the intention of the developed countries to offset part of their carbon footprint globally. But do you think that like probably my last question? Do you think that uh, the emerging markets would start to have the demand of their own because now they are suppliers, but some of these countries are great in the economy: Brazil, Russia, China, India. All of them are huge economies. Do you think that they create the demand on their own?
I would say yes, although in the short term the potential demand is on developed economies. I think that what the global south have to do is they have to look medium to long term, and they have to work together in order to create a kind of a critical mass, so that they will be in a position, for example, to develop their own taxonomy, and not a taxonomy developed by Europe or the US. Or they will be in a
Or
position to,
the EU
or
also.
the EU, or they will be in a position to develop the right financial innovation instruments and some other things. So working together makes a lot of sense for those economies.
Well, we're back to the multilateralism. Distinct of the people nowadays want to back to the other kind of make business. No, multilateralism. I think that is the response of the answer for everything that we discuss here.
And just like maybe the very final question, I cannot like stand asking because you're the economist from Brazil. But maybe in a very brief term, for Brazil, sustainability, is it already a driver of economy, or is it still some way to go before it becomes a new engine, a new power for it?
My sense is that it's already the engine, although in some sectors it is more important than in others. But if you go out and ask somebody on the streets, how they see sustainability, how they see global warming, how they see COP, COP30, all those things. What you get is that the large majority of Brazilians are engaged and are interested and are supporting sustainability. There is no, let's say, restriction or noise as you may see in the US or in Europe here. And I mentioned that because this is very important.
Mhm.
And another thing is could be, are they willing to pay a premium for green stuff? Uh, uh, as a developing economy right now, probably not, because we are a developing economy. But people on the upper class are already paying a premium. So I fully believe that uh, the global south, including the BRICS economies, have something that is perhaps very different from especially Europe and the US, which is they are not defending the status quo. They are open for business. They're open to engage with the climate change, setting up new businesses, new technologies, new innovation, new business models. Whereas Europe and the US, they are protecting the status quo.
Of course.
So this is perhaps a major issue.
Yeah,
Think.
I think that you direct to the point. They want to preserve the status quo, their status quo. But in my point of view, in the future, probably we have the advantage, not them. And because we need to use new models and innovations, incremental innovations for everything. And energy is a big example. Energy is a big example because here in Brazil we have a very uh, good metrics, energetic metrics that they don't be able to do the same in a short time, and probably they will use our energy, and not only energy because this scope two, but I think in the much more and the majority of sustainable ways we are in the advantage compared to them. I think that your point is completely correct. I agree with you.
So I think that the time is ours, unfortunately.
Exactly.
So, Professor Hamilton, thank you very much for your insights, and dear friends, thank you for being with us, and see you in the next Sustained Cast. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.